Grease never washed off completely. Ravi Okonkwo had learned this truth years ago, back when he fixed broken generators in Lagos. Now, millions of light years from Earth, his hands still carried the same dark stains under his fingernails. Some things stayed with you no matter how far you traveled. The salvage bay of Mournfield Station stretched before him like a graveyard. Broken ships, dead machines, and discarded technology filled every corner. The Galactic Reclamation Authority sent everything here to die. If something cannot be fixed quickly and cheaply, it was declared useless. Then it came to Mournfield, where workers like Ravi stripped it down for raw materials. Humans got these jobs because nobody else wanted them. In the galaxy's eyes, Earth's people ranked somewhere between useful and tolerable. They could follow orders, work long hours, and handle tasks that other species found boring. That made them perfect for salvage work. Ravi did not mind. He had always preferred machines to politics. His co-worker Demi Santos walked over, wiping her hands on a rag that had seen better days. She was Brazilian, loud, and absolutely fearless when it came to electronics. They had worked together for 2 years now. "New shipment coming in," she said. "Killith wants us in Base 7. Supervisor Killith was a Vorin, one of those tall amphibian creatures who believed rules existed for very good reasons. He treated humans the way someone might treat a useful but slightly annoying tool. Ravi had stopped caring about that a long time ago. They walked to Base 7, where a crowd had already gathered. Even from a distance, Ravi could see what all the fuss was about. The ship was beautiful. A stellar-class courier, sleek and silver, designed for speed and grace. But something terrible had happened to it. Scorch marks covered its hull. Entire sections looked twisted, as if some giant hand had squeezed it too hard. "Ion storm," Killith announced, his wet voice echoing through the bay. The Hegemony fleet recovered this vessel 3 weeks ago. No survivors. Total systems failure. Classification, irreparable. Irreparable. Ravi had heard that word 1,000 times. In the galaxy, it meant something very simple. The cost of fixing this machine was higher than the cost of building a new one. Therefore, it was garbage. "Strip it down," Killith continued. "Separate the metals, harvest the processors, recycle the rest. Standard procedure. You have 72 hours. The other workers began preparing their equipment. Cutting tools hummed to life. Someone brought over empty containers for the harvested parts. Ravi did not move. He stood there, staring at the ship. Something felt wrong. Not wrong like dangerous, but wrong like a puzzle piece that did not fit. "Ravi," Demi touched his arm. "You okay? Look at it," he said quietly. Demi looked. She saw a broken ship. "What am I looking at?" "The damage pattern. It's all in the outer hull. The internal framework looks intact. So, the systems are fried." "You heard Killith." Ravi walked closer. He ran his stained fingers along the ship's skin, feeling the metal tell its story. "Burns here, yes. Electrical damage from the ion storm. But underneath," he found an access panel and pried it open. Inside, cables and circuits sat in darkness. He pulled out a small light and shined it into the gap. "The distribution nodes are intact," he whispered. "All of them. That's impossible." The declaration said total failure. The declaration was wrong. This was the difference between humans and other species. When a Vorin or a Keth saw a broken machine, they saw broken parts. When Ravi saw a broken machine, he saw a conversation waiting to happen. Machines talked to those who listened. They told you where they hurt and what they needed. This ship was not dead. It was sleeping. Over the next few days, Ravi began mapping. He worked during breaks, during meals, during the hours when he should have been sleeping. He traced every system, every connection, every pathway that carried power and information through the ship's body. The others thought he was crazy. Even Demi gave him worried looks. "You're going to get in trouble," she warned him. "Killith already asked why you're falling behind on the strip work." "I'm not falling behind. I'm understanding." "Understanding what?" Ravi pulled up his notes, a hand-drawn diagram that covered several sheets of paper. "The ship's brain is scrambled, not destroyed. The ion storm disrupted all the connections, made everything forget how to talk to each other. But the parts themselves are fine." Demi studied the diagram. She was not an engineer, but she knew enough to recognize something important. Are you saying the ship can be fixed? I'm saying nobody tried. That was the real tragedy of the salvage yard. Not that things were broken, but that everyone gave up so easily. The galaxy had become wealthy enough that fixing things seemed like too much effort. Easier to throw away. Easier to forget. Ravi could not forget. Back on Earth, his grandmother had taught him to mend clothes until they had more patches than original fabric. His father had kept their family car running for 30 years through pure stubbornness. Throwing away something that could be saved felt like betrayal. That he looked at the ship again. In his mind, he could already see it whole. Lights glowing, engines humming, flying free among the stars. I'm going to bring it back, he said. Demi sighed. But she smiled too. You're going to get us both fired. Maybe. But first, I'm going to prove everyone wrong. He picked up his tools and climbed into the ship's belly, ready to begin. 2 weeks of secret work had turned Ravi's hands raw. He had cuts from sharp edges, burns from welding mistakes, and bruises from crawling through spaces never designed for human bodies. But when he connected the last cable and pressed the activation switch, none of that mattered anymore. The lights came on. Soft blue emergency lighting filled the ship's interior. Not bright, not strong, but alive. For the first time in months, electricity flowed through circuits that everyone had declared dead. Demi stood beside him, her mouth open in genuine shock. You actually did it. Just auxiliary power. The main systems are still disconnected. But Ravi was smiling, really smiling, for the first time since arriving at Mornfield Station. This is proof, though. Proof that it can be done. They had named the ship the Quiet because it made almost no sound. Most vessels hummed and clicked with thousands of small processes. This one sat in silence, waiting patiently for someone to wake it up completely. A clicking noise made them both freeze. Someone else was in the salvage bay. Ravi grabbed his light and pointed it toward the entrance. A small figure stood there, barely reaching his waist. It had 6 legs, a hard shell, and large compound eyes that reflected the beam. You are not supposed to be here, the creature said. Finnick was a Mora, a species that handled most of the inventory work on the station. They were excellent with numbers and terrible with anything requiring creativity. This one had worked in the bay next to Ravi's section for over a year. Neither are you, Demi said carefully. It's night shift. Inventory doesn't work nights. I heard sounds. Strange sounds. Finnick moved closer, his many legs making soft, tapping noises on the metal floor. I thought someone was stealing parts. But you are not stealing. You are. He paused, searching for the right word. Adding. Ravi lowered his light. We're fixing it. Fixing? But this vessel is classified irreparable. The classification was wrong. Finnick stared at the glowing lights inside the ship. His compound eyes shifted through several colors, a sign of deep confusion among his kind. This is not possible. The Reclamation Authority reviewed this vessel. Their engineers examined every system. For how long? Ravi asked. I do not understand. How long did they examine it? An hour? 2 hours. Ravi knelt down to meet Finnick's eyes. I've spent 2 weeks inside this ship. I've traced every wire, tested every connection. Their engineers looked and saw broken. I looked and saw sleeping. There is no difference. That's where you're wrong, friend. Finnick was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked the question that Ravi had been waiting for. Why? Why spend so much effort on something worthless? Ravi thought about his answer. He could have talked about economics, about the waste in the current system, about how the galaxy threw away perfectly good technology. All of that was true, but it was not the real answer. On Earth, he said, we don't have much, not compared to other worlds. For most of our history, we couldn't afford to throw things away. If something broke, you fixed it. If it couldn't be fixed, you found a new use for it. Waste meant death. He touched the ship's wall gently. This vessel carried someone once, maybe many someones. It had purpose, meaning. Declaring it garbage doesn't change what it was. And if I can give it back its purpose, then I have to try. Finnick considered this. Your species is strange. We've heard that before. I will not report you. Demi let out a breath she had been holding. Thank you. I want to watch, Finnick added. I want to understand how you do this. That was how their team grew from 2 to 3. The next morning brought trouble. Captain Yesatan was a Voran transport pilot whose ship had docked for minor repairs. She was taller than Killith, older, with scales that had faded to pale green from years of space travel. She found Ravi during his meal break. "You are the human working on the courier's ship," she said. It was not a question. Ravi kept eating. "I work on many ships. Do not play games with me." She sat down across from him without asking permission. "I saw the lights last night. Auxiliary power, running in a vessel declared dead 3 weeks ago. Maybe there was a malfunction." "There was no malfunction. You brought it back." Her voice was hard, but also something else. Desperate, maybe. Hopeful. "That ship belonged to my brother." Ravi put down his food. "His name was Torin," Yessa continued. "He was a courier for the hegemony. When the ion storm hit, they searched for 3 days. Found the ship drifting, empty. No body, no escape pod launched. They declared him dead." She paused. "They declared his ship worthless. I'm sorry for your loss." I accepted it. Both verdicts. Until I saw those lights. Her hands gripped the table edge. "If you can bring that ship back, it might tell me what really happened to him. Flight records, communication logs, something." Before Ravi could respond, another voice cut through the cafeteria. "There you are." Supervisor Killith approached with 2 security officers behind him. His amphibian face showed cold anger. "I have reviewed the bay footage," he said. "Unauthorized modifications to salvage property, theft of station resources, operating equipment during non-approved hours." He looked at Ravi with disgust. "You have 48 hours to strip that vessel as originally ordered, or your contract is terminated and you will be expelled from this station." Ravi stood slowly. "The ship can be fixed. The ship is garbage. As are your opinions on the matter." Killith turned and walked away, expecting obedience, but Ravi had never been good at obedience. And now he had something worth fighting for. Yessa's quarters on her transport ship smelled like salt water and machine oil. It reminded Ravi of the docks back in Lagos, where fishing boats came in every morning with their catches. Strange how the galaxy was full of different species, different worlds, different everything, but some smells stayed the same. She poured him a drink. Something clear and probably alcoholic. He did not touch it. "I cannot let them destroy that ship," she said. "Not now. Not when there might be answers inside. Killith has 47 hours left on his deadline. After that, I'm gone and the ship gets scrapped." What if the ship was no longer station property? Ravi looked at her carefully. "What do you mean?" "Salvage can be purchased at scrap value. The metals, the processors, the raw materials. I checked the manifest. Your ship is valued at 12,000 credits. She pulled out a data pad. "I have authorization to make that purchase immediately. You want to buy garbage. I want to buy my brother's last home." Her voice cracked slightly. "And I want to give you legal protection to finish your work." It was a clever solution. If Yessa owned the ship, Killith could not order its destruction. Ravi would not be modifying station property anymore. He would be doing contracted work for a private owner. "Why trust me?" he asked. "I'm just a human salvage worker. Nobody important." Because nobody important would spend 2 weeks secretly fixing something everyone else threw away. That tells me more about your character than any title ever could. Ravi finally took the drink. It burned going down, but in a good way. "I'll need more time," he said. "Weeks, maybe months. The auxiliary systems are running, but the main computer is still scrambled. Navigation, communications, life support. All dead. Whatever you need. Just find out what happened to Torin." They shook hands. Human custom, but Yessa seemed to understand its meaning. The purchase went through that afternoon. Killith was furious, but there was nothing he could do. The law was clear. Yessa owned the ship now. She could do whatever she wanted with it. Ravi got back to work. Demi focused on the ship's data core. It was the brain of the vessel, holding everything from flight records to personal messages. If answers existed, they lived inside that small metal box. "The good news is that the core survived the storm," she reported. "All the data is still there. And the bad news? It's encrypted, military grade. I can see the files, but I can't read them." Fennec tilted his head. "Why would a courier ship have military encryption?" That was an excellent question. Couriers carried packages and documents, nothing more. They had no need for high-security systems, unless they were carrying something valuable, something secret. Ravi spent the next week rebuilding the ship's nervous system. That was what he called it anyway. The ion storm had scrambled all the connections between systems, making each part unable to talk to the others. Fixing it meant reconnecting thousands of tiny pathways, teaching the ship's parts to communicate again. The work was slow and delicate. One wrong connection could destroy everything. But Ravi had patience. He had always had patience. Midway through the week, Demi made a breakthrough. "I got through the first layer of encryption," she announced. "Just the surface files, but look at this." She pulled up a communication log on her screen. The last entries were from the day of the ion storm. "Torin sent a distress call," she said, "but not about the storm. Listen." She played the audio. A male voice, calm but urgent, filled the small space. "This is Courier Vessel Bright Path to any receiving station. I have evidence of systematic corruption within the Galactic Reclamation Authority. Financial records, communication intercepts, witness statements. They know I have it. They're trying to stop me. If this message reaches anyone, please, the truth must survive. The storm is a cover. They're hunting me. Coordinates encoded in secondary channel. Find me. Find the truth." The message ended. Silence filled the ship. "The storm was a cover," Demi whispered. "They made it look like an accident." Fennec's shell darkened with distress. "The Reclamation Authority? Our Reclamation Authority?" Ravi stared at the screen. Everything made sense now. The ship was not destroyed by nature. It was attacked, disabled, left to drift so that everyone would believe the storm killed its pilot. The valuable evidence inside would be lost forever, except someone made a mistake. They left the ship too intact, and they never expected a stubborn human to look closer. "We need to tell Yessa," Demi said. "Not yet." Ravi shook his head. "We need the rest of the files. We need proof that can't be denied. But if the authority finds out we're digging, then we work faster." He turned back to the ship's systems. Somewhere in the darkness ahead, more answers waited. Torin had hidden them well enough that his killers missed them. Now Ravi had to find what they could not, that he owed that much to a stranger who died trying to tell the truth. That night, Ravi noticed something strange on the station's internal network. Security patrols near Bay 7 had doubled. Supervisor Killeth was making requests to the administrator's office. Requests about the recently purchased salvage vessel. Someone was watching them. The race had begun. Word spread through the station like fire through dry grass. A dead ship was coming back to life. Humans were doing the impossible. Mirel arrived on a Wednesday. She was a Keth, tall and angular, with silver skin that reflected light like polished metal. Her species produced some of the finest engineers in the galaxy. They built starships, space stations, and orbital habitats. They did not usually visit salvage yards. "I heard stories," she said, standing at the entrance to Base 7. I did not believe them. Ravi looked up from his work. He had just finished reconnecting the ship's environmental systems. Air was flowing now, real air processed and cleaned by machines that had been silent for months. What stories? That a human is rebuilding something the Reclamation Authority declared impossible. She stepped closer, her mechanical eyes scanning the ship with obvious interest. "I came to see for myself." And Mirel walked around the vessel slowly. She touched the hull where Ravi had welded patches over the storm damage. She examined the new cable runs visible through open access panels. She studied the readouts from the restored systems. "This should not work," she finally said. "By every standard engineering principle, this vessel is beyond repair. The ion storm disrupted too many systems simultaneously. Even if you reconnect everything, the timing protocols are destroyed. The systems cannot synchronize. I rebuilt the timing protocols from scratch. I watched how the systems tried to communicate. They were speaking different languages. So I created a translator, a bridge program that helps them understand each other." Mirel was silent for a long moment. "You invented new technology to save an old ship." "I invented a solution to a problem. That's what humans do." She asked to join his team. Ravi agreed. More hands meant faster progress, and they were running out of time. The extra help made a difference. Within a month, the ship had transformed. Navigation came online. Communications started working. Life support hummed steadily, keeping the interior warm and breathable. Demi had cracked more of the encryption too. Each layer revealed more damning evidence. Financial records showing millions of credits disappearing from the Reclamation Authority's accounts. Messages between officials discussing how to hide their crimes. Orders to destroy ships that were not actually broken, just inconvenient. They've been doing this for years, Demi said, her voice tight with anger. Declaring functional ships as salvage, then selling them to private buyers through fake companies. The profits go into personal accounts. How much? Fennec asked. Hundreds of millions. Maybe more. Mirel shook her head in disgust. And Torin found proof. He was an internal investigator, Ravi said. He had pieced together the story from recovered files. Hegemony Fleet assigned him to look into accounting irregularities. He got too close to the truth, so they silenced him. They tried. Administrator Salvin arrived that afternoon with 20 armed security officers. Salvin was the highest authority on Mornfield Station. He answered only to the Reclamation Authority's central command. His scales were dark green, almost black, and his eyes showed no warmth whatsoever. This vessel has been flagged for immediate destruction, he announced. Contaminated materials. Safety hazard. You will evacuate immediately. Ravi stepped forward. This vessel is private property. This vessel contains dangerous substances that threaten station security. Salvin smiled coldly. Under emergency protocols, I have authority to seize and dispose of any threat. What dangerous substances? That information is classified. There was no contamination, no safety hazard. Salvin was lying, and everyone knew it. The truth was simple. Someone high up in the Reclamation Authority had learned about the ship's secrets. They were sending Salvin to bury the evidence permanently. You cannot do this, Mirel said. The owner has rights. The owner can file a complaint with Central Administration after the vessel is destroyed. Salvin gestured to his officers. Clear them out. The security team moved forward. Ravi did not move. He stood between Salvin and the ship, a single human against 20 armed guards. It was stupid. It was hopeless. But he had spent months bringing this vessel back from the dead. He had listened to its systems cry out for help and answered them. He had learned every wire, every connection, every secret it held. He would not abandon it now. You'll have to go through me, he said quietly. Salvin laughed. Acceptable. But before the guards could take another step, new voices echoed through the bay. That won't be necessary. Yessa walked in with her entire crew. 12 Vorn transport workers, big and strong and very angry. Behind them came more figures. Human salvage workers from other sections. A group of Mora inventory staff led by Fennec. Even a few Keth engineers who had heard Mirel's reports. This ship belongs to me, Yessa said. These people are my employees. Any attempt to remove them is theft and assault. Salvin's smile faded. You're making a very dangerous choice, Captain. My brother made a dangerous choice when he decided to expose your corruption. Look where that got him. She stepped closer to Salvin, showing no fear. But he was alone. Ravi is not. The standoff held. Security against workers. Authority against truth. Salvin finally backed down. This isn't over. No, Ravi agreed. It's just beginning. As Salvin retreated with his guards, Ravi looked at the crowd that had gathered to defend him. Umans, Buren, Morra, Ket. Different species, different backgrounds, united by something bigger than themselves. The ship had brought them together. Now, they had to finish what Torrin started. Salvin locked down Bay 7 within the hour. Armed guards stood at every entrance. No one in, no one out. He called it a security perimeter. Everyone else called it a prison, but walls worked both ways. The guards kept Ravi's team trapped inside. They also kept the team close to the ship and all its secrets. Demi worked through the night. The deeper encryption layers were falling now, revealing the full scope of the corruption. Names, dates, account numbers. Everything Torin had gathered before his ship was attacked. We need to get this information out, she said. All of it. To everyone. How? Fennec asked. We're surrounded. Ravi thought about it. The station's communication systems were controlled by administration. Salvin could block any message they tried to send. But the ship's communications were independent, restored and functioning. Patch into the ship's transmitter, he said. Can you broadcast from here? Demi grinned. I can broadcast to every open channel in the sector. They worked fast. Mirel helped boost the signal strength. Fennec organized the files into a clear, undeniable package of evidence. Yessa stood watch at the doors, ready to warn them if Salvin made a move that morning. They were ready. Once I send this, there's no going back, Demi warned. Everyone will know. News networks, independent stations, Hegemony Fleet Command. The Authority won't be able to bury this. That's the point, Ravi said. Send it. She pressed the button. The effect was immediate. Within minutes, comm traffic across the sector exploded. News services picked up the story. Independent investigators began verifying the evidence. Officials in distant governments started asking very uncomfortable questions. Salvin received the news through his personal communicator. His face went pale beneath his scales that he stormed into Base 7 with his full security force. You have destroyed yourselves, he hissed. This is treason, sedition, attacks on legitimate authority. It's the truth, Ravi said calmly. Your organization has been stealing from the galaxy for years. Torin found proof. You tried to kill him for it. Now everyone knows. Everyone knows lies. Then explain why Hegemony Fleet investigators are already on their way. Yessa stepped forward, holding her own communicator. I just received confirmation. 3 ships, full investigation team. They should arrive within 6 hours. Salvin's confidence cracked. He had expected to handle this quietly, to bury the evidence and silence the witnesses before anyone important noticed. Instead, he had created a galactic incident. Arrest them all, he ordered his guards, but the guards hesitated. They had seen the broadcasts too. They had heard the evidence. Following Salvin now meant becoming part of the cover-up. One by one, they lowered their weapons. You cowards, Salvin snarled. You'll all face charges for this. Maybe, said one guard, but at least we won't face them alone. Salvin fled. With the immediate danger gone, Ravi turned back to the ship. Something had been bothering him since they started this final push. A detail that did not fit. Torin's message said to find him. He murmured, not find the truth. Find him. He walked through the ship slowly, looking with fresh eyes. They had restored almost every system. Navigation, communications, life support, propulsion. What had they missed? The Medbay Y.IT was a small room, designed for basic emergency care. Bandages, medicine, simple surgical tools. Nothing special, nothing worth hiding, but Ravi noticed the wall looked wrong. The measurements did not match. There was space behind the panels that should not exist. He grabbed a tool and pried open the hidden compartment that a cryopod sat inside, frost covering its surface. Through the ice, he could see a face. A Voran male, young, with scales the same color as Yessa's. Oh, stars, Yessa whispered from behind him. She had followed without him noticing. Oh, stars, that's him. That's Torin. The pod's display showed vital signs. Weak but steady. The occupant was alive. Torin had not died in the attack. He had hidden himself, programmed the ship to appear dead, and waited for rescue that never came. The Authority declared the ship worthless before anyone thought to check for survivors. He had been sleeping in the dark for months, preserved by technology everyone wanted to destroy. Wake him up, Yessa begged. Please, wake him up. Ravi checked the cryo systems. Everything looked functional, but ending hibernation was delicate work. Do it wrong, and the person inside could suffer permanent damage. Demi, I need you here. Together, they began the revival process. Slowly, carefully, they raised the pod's temperature. They monitored heart rate and brain activity. They prepared for complications that thankfully never came. 2 hours later, Torin opened his eyes. He looked confused at first, then frightened. His hand shot out, grabbing Ravi's arm with surprising strength. The evidence, he croaked. Did it survive? Did anyone find it? We found it, Ravi said gently. We found everything. The whole galaxy knows now. Torin's grip relaxed. Tears formed in his eyes. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you for not giving up. Ravi smiled. It's what humans do. Yessa pushed past him and embraced her brother. They held each other for a long time, crying quietly, reunited against all odds. The ship had been declared worthless. The man inside had been declared dead. But human hands had refused to accept those verdicts, and the truth had survived. 6 months changed everything. Ravi stood at the window of his new office, watching ships come and go from Mornfield Station. The place looked the same from the outside. Same metal walls, same docking bays, same endless flow of salvage being processed. But inside, nothing was the same anymore. The hegemony investigation had been thorough and brutal. Administrator Salvin was arrested on 16 different charges. 17 other officials from the Reclamation Authority joined him in custody. Their trial was expected to last years, but the outcome was already certain. The evidence from Torin's ship left no room for doubt. The authority itself was being rebuilt from the ground up. New leadership, new policies, new approaches. And at the center of these changes was a simple idea that a human salvage worker had demonstrated. Maybe throwing things away was not always the answer. Ravi had been offered his own division. The Restoration Initiative, they called it. His job was to examine vessels declared irreparable and determine if they could actually be saved. In his first month, he had found 7 ships that needed repair, not recycling. The savings were already in the millions. But more important than money was the change in thinking. Other species were starting to ask questions. Why do we give up so easily? What else have we thrown away that could have been saved? What does it mean to truly value something? A knock came at his door. "They're here," Demi said. He followed her to the main hangar, where a transport had just landed. The doors opened, and a group of humans walked out. Engineers, mechanics, technicians. 30 in total, recruited from Earth and human colonies across the sector. The Galactic Restoration Initiative had requested them specifically. They wanted to learn the human approach to repair. Not just the technical skills, but the philosophy behind them. The stubborn refusal to abandon things that still had value. Mirel was waiting to greet them. She had become one of the initiative's strongest supporters, convincing other Keth engineers to study human methods. "They don't understand why you people never give up," she had told Ravi once. "They think it's inefficiency. I'm trying to teach them it's something else entirely." "What?" "Hope. You look at broken things and see what they could become. We look at broken things and see what they were. That difference changes everything." The new arrivals spread across the station over the following days. They began training sessions, teaching alien species the art of creative repair, how to diagnose problems by listening, how to improvise solutions from available materials, how to believe in restoration even when the numbers said otherwise. Fennec had officially become Ravi's apprentice. The little Mora followed him everywhere, asking endless questions, taking detailed notes. He was the first of his species to enter the repair field, but probably not the last. His reports back home had inspired dozens of young Mora to consider similar careers. Yessa and Torin visited often. The ship that had nearly killed him was now called the Return. Yessa flew it on missions for the hegemony, continuing her brother's work of investigating corruption wherever it appeared. Torin had recovered fully and testified at every trial, making sure his evidence was understood correctly. "You gave me back my life," he told Ravi during one visit, both literally and symbolically. "I don't know how to repay that." "Keep telling the truth," Ravi said. "That's enough." One afternoon, a massive vessel arrived at the station. A colony ship big enough to carry 5,000 people. It had suffered a critical failure during a journey to a new settlement world. The refugees inside were stranded, forced to wait on emergency stations while their future remained uncertain. The official assessment came quickly. Irreparable. Total loss. Cost of repair exceeds cost of building new vessel. Recommend immediate salvage processing. Ravi received the report on his desk. He read it twice, then walked down to the bay where the enormous ship sat waiting for its fate. Killith was there, of course. He still worked at the station, though in a much reduced role. His strict adherence to protocol had been deemed less valuable than it once was. "The assessment is clear," Killith said. "This vessel cannot be saved. You should not waste your time." Ravi ignored him. He walked around the ship slowly, studying its wounds. Hull damage here, engine failure there, computer systems scrambled beyond recognition. Every sensor he had said the same thing. Too broken, too expensive, too much trouble, but sensors could be wrong. Assessments could miss things. And somewhere inside this massive machine, 5,000 hopes waited to be fulfilled. He found an access hatch and pulled it open. The interior was dark and silent, exactly like the quiet had been when he first saw it. Dead and waiting, Ravi climbed inside. Demi appeared at the hatch behind him. You know what everyone's going to say. I know. They'll say you're crazy. That this is too big, too damaged, too impossible. They said that last time, too. He moved deeper into the ship, letting his hands touch the walls, feeling the metal speak to him. Broken, yes, but not beyond hope. Never beyond hope. Fennec squeezed through the hatch next, followed by Mirel and a dozen other workers from a new initiative. They gathered around Ravi in the darkness, waiting. Well, Mirel asked, "What do you see?" Ravi smiled. The same smile he had worn months ago, standing before another dead ship that everyone else had abandoned. I see what it could be again. He picked up his tools and got to work. Behind him, Killith stood at the entrance, watching the humans and their allies begin the impossible task. After a long moment, he picked up a toolkit and followed them inside. Some lessons took longer to learn than others. But eventually, everyone understood. Nothing was truly broken. It just needed the right hands to bring it back.